There we go. All right. So I'm an IT consultant, and it usually starts out like this. Hopefully not in a burger shop in Bikini Bottom, but usually starts out with the long list of required skills. Please know Java, Kotlin, .NET, React, Angular, everything about dinosaurs. Please do have 20 years of experience, although this technology has only existed for 5 years. And please do use AI in every possibility you get. And if you do also happen to look like this, that's great. So, I went to one of these interviews, and of course, they look exactly like this. And they asked me, hey, we need a back-end developer, so please come here, show us what you can do. Please become a part of our team working with the payment systems in one of the biggest banks in Norway. And I went to the interview and I answered all of their questions, which were totally unrelated to what I was actually going to work on. And at the end of the interview, they said, oh, by the way, do you know any React? And I answered, yeah, I've written a few lines of code. And they're like, okay, fine, we might get use of that at some point, but you're mostly going to work on back-end systems, so it's fine. And as a consultant, you're only as good as your last line of code that you got checked in, because they can fire you at any point. So around one and a half year later, we were out of back-end tasks. And I really loved working with this bank. And they said, well, you did say in your interview that you know React, so maybe you can look at some of the front-end tasks. And I thought, why not? I told them that I can do so, so I should. And I thought, if it's gonna go wrong, I can always ask my good colleague, which I will call Rambo for this presentation, because he was a tough guy and he also knew a lot about React. So I started working on some of the core payment systems. The only problem is that I forgot to ask Rambo. So I checked in some code, went home for the day, came back, and everything looked like this. And when you work with banks in Norway, if Tieto Evry ever calls you, you know that you're in deep shit. And it's not because they're not nice people, it's just because they will figure out that your systems are not working properly. So they called us and they said, well, it does look like someone broke the payment system. Did you maybe roll out something yesterday around 4 o'clock? Something that is not working properly? And my face went white and I knew this was my fault. I knew that I just happened to know. Even though the code, it was checked, it ran on my machine, most definitely. But I also knew that I was the one that did the rollout. And we quite quickly discovered that, yeah, it was also my code that had messed everything up. And quite a few customers were not able to do what they wanted to do. When you log onto a bank, you normally want to pay someone something or get paid. And I started doing the calculations in my head, and I felt just like this. So please do not ever start calculating how much money is wasted when you make a mistake. Because when you open Excel and you figure out that that's a few millions of kroner down the drain, it does feel like shit. And I went home that day and I talked to my fiance and I said, you know what? I don't want to do IT anymore. It's just not for me. I'm just not cut out for it. And when I come to work tomorrow, this is what's going to happen. I'm absolutely sure this is what will happen tomorrow. So I don't know, maybe maybe I can become a coach. Because I have a background in biathlon, and I was a biathlon coach at the time, and I did remember that they tried to hire someone to work on a project in China to get China to become a medal-winning nation in biathlon. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for that interview. Because if there's one thing they do really good in China, is they take really good care of coaches that fail. Went to the interview. Luckily, they ended up hiring Ola Einar Bjørndalen, who is like the most winning Olympic athlete of all time. So yeah, good for them. So I had to go back to work, and I was like, okay, just gonna pack up my stuff, tell everyone on the team it was great working with them, and yeah, that was it. Walked in the door, and who I met was actually, and I thought, they're gonna find me. I'm gonna have to go on Nav, which in Norwegian that's a term like going on welfare. You are out of a job. And I thought, they're probably nice. They do nice things there. They're probably nice to people. So as I came in the door at the bank, I actually did meet Michael Scott, or his name was Rune, and he was indeed in that moment the world's best boss, because he took me aside and he said, "How do you feel right now?" And I said, "Terrible." And he said, "All right, but how do we learn something from what happened?" And I looked at him like, "Are you joking?" He's like, "No, we need to learn as much as possible because you managed to figure out something wrong in our process. And that means that if this can happen now, it can happen again, and it shouldn't." So Rune took me on he was like acting like a guru to me, and he said, "We're just gonna dig as deep into this mistake as possible. We're gonna figure out as much as possible, and we're gonna teach everyone how it happened, why it shouldn't happen again, how we're gonna avoid it." And I honestly could not believe what he said, because it sounded too good to be true. And I had to go seek out some professional help, but my psychologist said, "Well, what if it happens to be true? Just go along with it. See, maybe they are indeed nice people. Maybe they just want to learn." So around 2 weeks later, I was standing in front of a crowd at this bank, and I was telling everyone, "Hey, you remember how we just messed everything up and it was my fault? Well, here's everything I've learned about it. And here is how you can avoid." And this process just not only gave me the control of the situation, but it was also, I do believe that it helped someone to learn something else. So my key takeaway from this lightning talk is, when you make a mistake, please do talk about it to others. Please do share your experiences. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that you get invited to NDC or one of the other conferences I've been at. So please remember that every mistake, every failure is a great resource for learning, and please share them with others. Thank you very much.